Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, and in this skills presentation I'm going to look at evidence. Not for your source paper, but how you might use evidence in your essays. So I'm going to look at three things. What is evidence? And that might seem obvious, but let's see where I take that. How do you use evidence? And how, if at all, do you evaluate its worth? Now, I always say that almost anything in history is evidence of something else. Even events are evidence. For example, protests, demonstrations, riots are evidence that people aren't happy about something. Assassinations, for that matter, too. Think about the unrest in Weimar Germany. The attempted coups, the assassinations. What is it evidence of? A power vacuum? Left-wing and right-wing extremism? The trauma of defeat? A nation, a people left floundering? People unwilling to accept what had happened? It's all evidence of that. But if you want something more concrete, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, as well as being one of the most significant events in modern world history, is itself evidence of the clash between Austro-Hungarian imperialism and Serb Balkan nationalism. Now, in sociology, and the slide I use is for sociology rather than history, both quantitative and qualitative evidence is used to explain social reality. Well, we can and do use much the same in history, and by distinguishing between the two, I think it helps us think about evidence. Quantitative evidence in history uses numerical data to find patterns or trends, a booming or declining economy, for example. But this needn't be exclusively economic data. Population growth tells us a lot about a nation, about society. But think of other things you can count. I would go back to protests, demonstrations, riots and assassinations. What do the numbers of lives lost in different wars tell us? I always encourage my students to think of those lives as workers, consumers and taxpayers. And then the data tells us a lot more. Qualitative evidence in history uses more descriptive evidence, coming from people or second-hand from newspapers, to understand experiences. And experiences is a key word, but I would add motivation too. What experiences motivated people to act in a certain way? And we use this both with respect to the leading figures in history, the likes of Lenin, Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler and Mao, but also the masses. What led so many people to vote for Hitler and the Nazi Party? Why did so many people volunteer to fight in World War I? Why did the Chinese youth follow Mao's leadership in the Cultural Revolution? So you can see qualitative data is used to help us answer some very big questions. Now, quantitative and qualitative evidence are not exclusive of each other. They can be used in tandem to support each other. The unemployment data of Weimar Germany, coupled with voting data, but also the experiences of people who had lived through the aftermath of World War I and the trials of Weimar Germany, Hitler's speeches too, and people's comments on seeing Hitler speak, all add up to a powerful explanation of why the Nazis were the leading party in Weimar Germany in the early 1930s. So I hope you can see how evidence can and should be used in your essay? And wouldn't what I've just said make a good opening sentence to a paragraph? Let's look at that again. The unemployment data of Weimar Germany, coupled with voting data, but also the experiences of people who had lived through the aftermath of World War I and the trials of Weimar Germany, Hitler's speeches too, and the people's comments on seeing Hitler speak, all add up to a powerful explanation of why the Nazis were the leading party in Weimar Germany in the early 1930s. On the whole, you don't have to evaluate the credibility or reliability of the evidence. That's for your source paper. Though you can say that different pieces of evidence together confirm the point or the judgment you are making. With quantitative data, you can add that the data only goes so far to explain why something happened or the impact of something. I often quote the great historian Eric Hobsbawm when he said of unemployment that whilst it's an economic statistic, it's a social experience. And that experience is actually more important to us historians. Something to really think about there. As for qualitative evidence, you might want to comment on how far we can accept it as representative. And if there is some doubt to the evidence, you can say so. This should be for an argument you don't support, though. That is, the alternative perspective that you're giving. Or why are you using the evidence? The key thing is that you make use of evidence in your essays, but you don't make the essay about the evidence. But do use the word. Tell the examiner what you are doing. The evidence for this can be seen in, and then where can it be seen? There is clear evidence to support this claim, and give some examples. There is a variety of evidence to back this claim. Give some evidence. I hope you understand what I mean by these points, and that you find my skills presentations useful. If you're watching this during your course, do go back to it and the others during your revision. How you get across your points will determine your grade as much as your knowledge and understanding. Now, if you should be interested in tutorials, you know what to do. Get your parents to get in touch with me at historymadeeasier@gmail.com to see if we can sort something out. I can negotiate a price with your parents, you mustn't worry about that. And my tutorials are designed to be self-contained. That is, there will not be extra work for you to do outside the tutorial, unless, of course, you want that. And I would add that tutorials with a friend can be more effective than on your own. So you might want to consider that, and it cuts the cost down. But in any case, let me thank you, as always, for listening, and wish you the very best of luck with your studies. Cheers.